Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I rise also to speak on the Public Works Committee into the Truro freight route and make a brief contribution because others in this House have spoken about how the Truro freight route is a project that is good in and of itself, but I also see it as being good and an important first step in a wider Greater Adelaide freight bypass. One of my number one local priorities in the eastern suburbs is getting trucks off of our local roads, heavy trucks off of our local roads like Portrush Road and Glen Osmond Road. These are roads that I, like so many, drive down every day, and they're just not appropriate freight routes. They are lined with schools, with nursing homes, with houses, with shops. The fact that Portrush Road is Highway 1, sir, is quite frankly absurd. So we need to get trucks off of our local roads, and I see the Truro freight route as an important first step in achieving that. Unfortunately, I think we only ever talk about this issue with trucks on our local roads when there's a tragic accident or where there's a shocking collision, and the most recent of those was last year, where we saw an incident at the bottom of the freeway involving a truck, but also I think about 7 cars and a bus, and quite frankly it was miraculous that there were no fatalities out of that accident. But we shouldn't have to wait for fatalities, we shouldn't have to wait for another tragedy before we take action on this issue. Indeed, I think that crash was the 5th major crash at that intersection since 2010. So we very much need to act on this issue urgently. The Truro freight route is an important step in realising a Greater Adelaide freight bypass. That's why I was very concerned last week to read about the Truro freight route being in doubt now, thanks to actions from the federal Labor government. That's why I was concerned this week to hear that the Greater Adelaide freight bypass is in doubt in response to questions to the Minister for Infrastructure, who did not commit to a Greater Adelaide freight bypass. Couldn't even tell us when the Greater Adelaide freight bypass planning study, which was due to be released in December last year, would be released. So we're waiting for that. But I say, Mr Speaker, we cannot afford to wait. So bring on the Truro freight route, bring on the Greater Adelaide freight bypass, and let's get trucks off our local roads like Portrush Road and Glen Osmond Road.